Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the 12 greatest classical rhythmicists of all time. Classical music, meaning, you know what I mean. It's. In fact, let me put the word classical music in here because, you're dealing with modern music generally or pop music. You could have all kinds of fabulous rhythmic things going on that have nothing to do with it being a classic. So there it is. We're talking about classical music rhythmicists. I don't even know if rhythmicist is a word, but it might as well be, so we're going to use it. Composers who had a particularly enlivening sense of rhythm. Now, this can come in a variety of packages. It can be rhythm in terms of simple vitality and energy, or it could be rhythm in terms of advanced approaches to rhythm. Wild syncopations and strange meters and things like that to make the music rather tricky and enjoyable. So, we're doing it both ways. And because I think that they belong together, actually, because in all cases, we're talking about composers whose recipe, whose style, whose blend of musical elements awards a certain primacy to the rhythmic element. And we begin with Vivaldi. Vivaldi is the Baroque rhythm guy, as far as I'm concerned. Zelenka does too, of course, because he's always syncopated. But Vivaldi, what makes Vivaldi wonderful is not his handling of counterpoint. It's not his amazing melodic gift, because no Baroque composers really had that, except Handel, I suppose, in terms of romantic, gushy melodies. I mean, it's not what Baroque music did. But what Vivaldi had was rhythm. His music has life. It breathes joy. It really moves. And he gets away with a lot because of that, because musically sometimes it's just sequences or, rather uninteresting harmonic patterns. But when you energize those with a really strong rhythmic impetus, everything changes. And of course, that's why we consider it great music. I mean, Vivaldi was very seldom wrote dull music. He might have written some conventional or ordinary or excessively sequential. You can argue however you want, but it's hard to find a Vivaldi piece that you want to say, oh, gee, it should have ended a minute and a half ago or something like that. It doesn't. It drives to the finish line. So Vivaldi is first on my list. Next, Beethoven, of course. Beethoven's rhythm also is seldom very tricky. I mean, he did write some complicated things, but it's the energy level, which you got from Haydn, by the way. But Haydn is on all these lists, so I didn't put him on this list. You can put Haydn on the list because he belongs there. His rhythm's amazing. But no, Beethoven was the guy who really made rhythm such a critical element. I mean, just think of the first movement of the Fifth Symphony, the last movement of the Fifth Symphony, any movement of any symphony. You'll always find this rugged, exciting, athletic, virile approach to rhythm in Beethoven. And even in his more elegant pieces, like, the Fourth Piano Concerto. It's ironic, the Fourth Piano Concerto uses the same rhythm as the opening of the Fifth Symphony. Bum 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 ba da 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 da. I mean, it's just as obsessive. It's the same rhythm, but it creates an entirely different feeling. But repeating these small rhythmic fragments, like I said, something he got from Haydn, who does it all the time, is a hallmark of Beethoven's style. And, so many pieces of his, you can tell just by the rhythm. I mean, if I said to you, dum, bum, 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 you go, oh, second movement of the Seventh Symphony. I mean, Beethoven's rhythms are as important and identifiable as his melodies, his themes, his anything else. So yeah, Beethoven elevated rhythm to a principle of musical organization, which is critically important for future developments. After Beethoven, Dvorak. Dvorak is very interesting. Dvorak had, first of all, the Slavonic dance rhythm thing, which infected everything he wrote, not just the Slavonic dances, the furiant movements in his chamber works and symphonic works like the Scherzo of the Sixth Symphony. Dvorak can be really tricky rhythmically, particularly in terms of syncopations. He can be very, very difficult to play well. But the interesting about Dvorak is that his rhythms can be very interesting, but his phrasing can be stiff. In other words, the rhythm is interesting. It's different and it's fresh and it's vibrant and it's special. But sometimes he writes in very, very repetitive 4-bar phrases. The finale of the Fourth Symphony, dun 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 bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum. It's the rhythm that keeps that movement alive, because the phrasing is not very interesting. And Dvorak knew about it. I mean, he got better as he went on, and he revised that symphony. He liked it. I mean, there are some aspects of his music which, some people object to because they find it simplistic, but it was his style and he stuck with it. And I admire that. I really do, especially because in that very movement, it has a gorgeously fluid second subject. Ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. So after all that stiffness and repetitiveness, the big tune comes back. And it's really the first example of a romantic symphony that has one of those big, gushy tunes that we associate with like Tchaikovsky and Rachmaninoff. But Dvorak did it decades before they did. And it's so fulfilling. And not only does that tune come back, but it turns out that underneath that tune, you get the rhythm. Bum, 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 ba-dum, bum, bum. It's going on underneath it. It's really cool, actually. So he redeems himself from an unpromising start. Rhythm can do that. And it often does that for Dvorak. But his handling of rhythm generally is really exciting and fresh and just lovely. Nielsen. Nielsen is a composer similar to Beethoven. That same muscular, propulsive, exciting, constantly agitated approach to rhythm. And it gives his symphonies incredible power and energy. He's a composer of great, great dynamism. That is the word, dynamism. And oh gosh, it's just splendid. And it's interesting too, because Nielsen's not really a dance guy. His scherzos are not, you think they're like cute little Danish dancey things. They're not. They're intermezzi, similar to what Brahms would write. And often very highly developmental and complex. Even the third movement of the First Symphony. Da 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 ya da 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 da. It's that weird syncopated 6/4 rhythm and very, very interesting. As a rhythmic composer, he always keeps that music moving, but not in the way you expect all the time. He doesn't sound like ethnic in that sense, like, for example, Dvorak or those guys. So that's really very, very interesting. Albert Roussel, the great French symphonist who became more and more neoclassical, and as he did, punchier and more exciting and bracing in his approach to rhythm. I mean, just Bacchus and Ariane, the ballet. I mean, forget the symphonies, which are amazing, but Bacchus and Ariane has just the most incredibly vibrant opening. It's a ballet. Usually, they sort of are droopy and like the little ballerinas wake up and the tadpoles dance around and, you've got all this like nature crap and you have to do this. Not with Roussel. It's chump da 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 dump da 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 dump da 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 chump da 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 da. It's moving from the very first, and it just sustains this level of intensity and energy. Of course, the third and fourth symphonies have that stuff in spades. A wonderful, wonderful composer whose feeling for rhythm, even in his earlier impressionist works, was always an incredibly significant part of his musical language. The Scherzo of the Second Symphony, which is just phenomenal. There's just so many places in Roussel where rhythm is a distinguishing characteristic of some of his best moments. So Roussel is definitely up there. Copland. Oh my gosh, Copland. Copland, was a rhythmic guy in the style of Stravinsky, who we will talk about anon. But he had also his own feeling for rhythm, very syncopated often, sometimes really tricky. Pieces like the Short Symphony, which are still extremely difficult to play because of the way that the texture is constantly changing in very complex rhythms. So you have to create linear coherence and continuity while the instruments are changing and the colors are changing and the rhythms are really tricky. Oh, it's fun. It's really fun. It's great stuff. I remember playing El Sol in Mexico, which is in 8. It's in 8 every way you can be in 8. It's in 8 like 3 plus 3 plus 2, or 3 plus 2 plus 3, or 2 plus 3 plus 3 within a bar. You just got to count eighth notes, or else you are doomed. You know, even the part everybody likes, da 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 da, boom. You know, if you keep the eighth notes going, cha 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 cha, and then the conductors like to, you know, put little retards and things in there which really screw you up. When oh gosh, yes, Copland, he's a rhythm guy. Martinu is brilliant in his approach to rhythm. It's a perpetually syncopated, singing cantabile kind of rhythm. Fun to listen to, joyous, and also rather tricky. I have to tell all of you people who, if you're ever playing Martinu, it doesn't go as fast as you think it does. He's another composer where you wind up counting eighth notes as often as not. But the thing about it is that you know, he has this cantabile syncopated line. You know, the one in the Sixth Symphony. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. There's that. Or in the Toccata e due canzone, ya da dum, ya da 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 dum, ya da 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 da. Yeah. The First Symphony, the very opening, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, do 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 do. I can't do it, but it's really tricky. The key is to slow down so that you can count it correctly. But it's wonderful. You can tell exactly who the composer is in 2 seconds just from the handling of rhythm. And that's what great rhythmic people do. Next, Gershwin. Yeah. I mean, because Gershwin's got rhythm. He's got rhythm. He said so in the song. I've got rhythm, right? Ya da da da, ya da 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 ba da ba 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 ba. You know, it's always probably from singing that I'll get a copyright claim. God knows, but no, Gershwin was a tremendous composer when it came to rhythm. He borrowed from jazz and popular music idioms, and as a result, his music has so much vibrancy. I mean, American in Paris, Rhapsody in Blue, Porgy and Bess, the Piano Concerto. There are as much studies in the fabulosity of rhythm as the wonderfulness of his melodies. And, you know, the two go hand in hand. Really superb stuff. And he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves for his approach to his handling of, you know, rhythm in connection with his extraordinary melodic gift. So after Gershwin, Messiaen. Messiaen billed himself as a rhythmicien, because he uses Hindu rhythms, very interesting Hindu rhythms that are clonking and honking along. You know, you don't really tell that they're there. I mean, you know, you just are conscious of this sort of rhythmic element all of the time. And he has these, you know, percussive rhythmic tattoos running through so much of his work, along with the birds and the color stuff and Jesus and everything else. And it's really, he was absolutely determined to make rhythm one of the 3 or 4 major constituent elements of his personal idiom, and he wrote about it extensively. So Messiaen definitely deserves a rhythm prize. After Messiaen, Lou Harrison. There's somebody you probably don't think of, but, you know, Lou Harrison was, you know, like Messiaen, someone who was heavily influenced by Eastern modes, Eastern musics, and Eastern rhythm. And his approach to rhythm is particularly important because quite often his music is simply percussive, his American gamelan and his gamelan, with a single melodic line on top of it. So you know, when you're writing like that, rhythm is the sustaining force. You just have melody and rhythm. That's all the music is. And so he's a critical contributor to the emancipation of rhythm in 20th century music. I mean, he invented a lot of his own percussive instruments, really wonderful stuff. So Lou Harrison, and then, of course, Stravinsky. Stravinsky was the king of rhythm in the 20th century. It was the whole thing. It was Petrushka, The Rite of Spring. It was everything that came after that, even the neoclassical stuff. Without rhythm, Stravinsky is completely uninteresting. He really is, because he wasn't a tunesmith. He was a very, very fine orchestrator in a sort of icy cold, woodwindy sort of way. But it's the rhythm that makes his music breathe, that gives it life. Rhythmic ostinatos sometimes syncopated rhythms, but always, always, always with Stravinsky, you got to play the rhythms. You've got to keep them vibrant and keep them sharp and edgy. And then you get great, great music. However, we have to end with one of the most fascinating composers of the 20th century to explore rhythm, and that's Conlon Nancarrow. Nancarrow, some of you may know, gave up writing for traditional instruments entirely at one point in his career because they could not play his music with the precision that his complex rhythmic notation demanded. And so he began writing solely for the player piano, a mechanical instrument in which he could create exact rhythmic values by punching holes in a sheet of paper and measuring them out with his compass and protractor. And he experimented with irrational time signatures, 4/3i, or who knows what it was, or pi something, whatever, and all kinds of very, very strange and fascinating divisions of the beat. Also at extraordinary speeds, because mechanical instruments, it's limited only by how fast the thing can actually move. And player pianos can move, and he made them move. His music is absolutely amazing. And he was a real American maverick, one of those guys. He lived in Mexico, actually, because he was a communist, and, he wound up having to flee the country. His career was extraordinary, and his entire body of work consists mostly, not entirely, but mostly of studies for the player piano, about 50 some odd of them. But some of them were so complicated in terms of their rhythmic effects and time signatures that it took him years, literally years, to punch all the holes and work on them, and then notate them, God knows, So he's somebody who you cannot talk about rhythm without giving him credit where credit is due for probably pushing it as far as you could push it while still claiming to write something which is artistically valuable and worth exploring and worth hearing, because his music is fun. I mean, sometimes it's atonal, sometimes it's jazz, sometimes it's just frenetic and supersonic speeds. It's amazing. So Nancarrow is the be-all and end-all, probably the end-all of rhythmic exploration in Western music. I mean, something like that. So there you have it, my friend, the Rhythmicists. Keep on listening, friends. Take care.